Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this live broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Monday, August 11th, 2025. As we go through the drought of disclosure, there seems to be a lot of stuff to talk about. How about that? Let's keep it all going, my friends. Before we get to the stories, let's go ahead and welcome in our audience. Who the heck do we have out there? Well, we've got GMC along with Alien Biker. Amiga Rules is here along with Anne Marie. I see Azrael Aries and then Banana Booey. Century City is here along with Craig Smith and Creativity from the Future. Well, would you look at that? We got Daryl is YouTube, Mr. Zernick, Live Long and Prosper. Digger Dog is here along with Dunk 7. Eliza Teal, Exiles here, Francis and Freezerman 71. We also have Gene Stucco. Good to see you, Gene. Geraldine Durazio. We've got Ghosts here. Jan and J-Cat Meow is here. I see Jonah B, JSS, Kane Hart, Kelly Broten, those piercing blue eyes. Lone Wolf's here along with Maritime Unprepared. In the chat is where it's at. I see Matt Davis, Matt Ramon. Haven't seen you in a while, Matt. Good to see you, my friend. Megan Betts is here. Who else do we have? We got Metal Gaming, Mr. Joey B. Ms. Cussout popped in along with Necessary Dialogue. And Niles Guy, our resident pitbull. I saw you over at Richard Dolan's the other night, but you're a mod here. Good to see you, my friend. Don't step out of line, audience, because he is our resident pitbull. Pun intended. Player One's here, along with Prism Films US. We've got Roni Deal, Rodney Cox, Rough Reddy, Shinobi One Kenobi, Shrooby Doo is here. Good to see you, my friend. Silent Fallujah, Sober Elvis. That would be really boring. Sonny. We got Stargazer, Stephen Forbes, Timmy, the Vern Dude. Oh my God, a bunch of people in the audience. We haven't made it to the end, and yeah, we did. Wee Beastie and When Weebs React. Holy cow, a bunch of people in the audience. Happy Monday, everybody. Yeah, we got a smorgasbord of things we're going to be talking about today. Yeah, we got Lue and Jennifer. We've got the Blacks Cube that showed up. Ross Colehart still getting out there in his wonderful tale of a giant UFO that's too big to be moved. And of course, the story about Richard Dolan joining Need to Know podcast with Bryce Zabel. How about that? A lot of stuff. And there's a whole bunch of other things we're going to get to. So before we get there, I'm going to let everybody know out there, yes, our dear friend Mike Disclosure is food poisoning. Yes, he's got Disclosure coming out both ends at this point. It's very dizzy and not feeling good. So we wish you feeling better, Mike. We're going to have a fun time here today. I try to promise. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the studio and get to, I think, should be our first story. It's around here somewhere. I'll find it in a second, I promise. Let me go ahead and jump into the, oh God, where am I going to go on this one? I got to think about this. Oh, let's just jump in and see who in the heck do we have on our show? Who's in the back right now? Because I know it's not Mike, but let's have fun with it. Freezerman 71. How is your weather up in BC? It's like our second hottest day of the year. That'll be tomorrow. How's your weather doing up there?
It's pretty hot, but I have the AC going, so I'm fine.
Oh, nice. Yes, we went and I got up at 7 o'clock this morning, whether I liked it or not, closed the windows and kept the house around 70 degrees all day. So up here in the Pacific Northwest, we're doing pretty swell, I should say. Where the hell did that image go? Let me go, change new tab, get it there. All right, let's get to our first story of the day. If you don't mind, what are we talking about today? Yes, Foia reveals Black Cube UFO. That's our top story tonight. Yes, it's coming to us from our friend over at the Black Vault. Yes, gotta love John Greenwald. Love him, hate him. He does a great job. He's been doing this forever. He's the king of Foias. So let's get into talking about, what the hell are we talking about? Yes, we're talking about a giant black sphere. I love it. So let's get to it. So, newly released Federal Aviation Administration documents obtained by the Black Vault under Foia adds significant new information to the still developing story about a series of unauthorized drone incursions at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in December of 2024. These records, drawn primarily from the FAA's Skywatch system, supplement the earlier Air Force Foia release previously covered by the Black Vault, and they introduced a striking new element, the report of a black cube-shaped UFO observed around, you guys can't see that, let me fix that, 16,000 feet. Doesn't sound like a regular drone or UAS to me. Let's get into it. Skywatch is an FAA operations security platform used to collect and disseminate reports of suspicious or unauthorized aerial activity, often relayed through air traffic control towers, FAA regional offices, and the Domestic Events Network. It serves as a central alert system for potential security risks, with reports that are often shared with law enforcement and military security forces. Let's get into a summary of the events just released as a result of this case and drawing from the Skywatch system. Here we go. Let's bring this next one up, bring it across. Let's hit it. Okay, so Event 1 on December 14th, 2024, air traffic controllers observed one drone over multiple sensitive locations on base, including the hot cargo ramp, the south side of runway 5L, the military ramp, and the east side of the airfield. Base security reported the drones were turning their lights off and flying past them in close proximity. The incident triggered notice of elements going on in the sky for an airfield course. With the information broadcast on the ATIS, the closure remained in effect until base leadership met later that morning. Now, let's go on to Event 2 on December 17th. This is right after, in the end, of the overall drone thing that was going on, if you remember. Multiple radar targets, presumed to be drones, were observed on the tower radar. No visual confirmation was made, but the Riverside Police Department clearly was notified. Now, on December 3, event number 3, on December 17th, 2024 at 4:58 in the morning. Let's open up this next one here and bring it up for us all to check out as we talk about it. Here we go. The situation escalated when ZID center radar detected between 7 and 17 targets within 40 miles of the airport. Wright-Patterson security forces on the ground confirmed the objects were drones, or UAS as they like to call it. It seems like everything they're calling out these days is UAS. If I may ask Ed in the back, Ed, do you think this is just a cover up to stop calling these things UAP and to start calling everything out as UAS? I know you've got a theory on these elements.
Well, it could be, but I still believe that, and we were disagreeing with this a couple of months ago, Thomas. I still believe that those were small, but they were still UAPs. They were still controlled by NHI. They were not commercial. It wasn't a foreign attack. I still believe they're NHI craft, but much smaller. Yeah. It seems like they try to match what we're doing. That's the impression I get. And when I was looking at that cube, I was thinking, well, they can morph that into anything they want. They could turn that into a circle if they wanted to, or a round sphere or whatever. It wouldn't matter because we don't need to have control surfaces for it. Yeah. Good point, my friend. I'd have to agree with you on that one because you know what? We look at these things, we don't know exactly what they are. There's never a definitive answer. We've never gotten good video footage. We've gotten some still images of it. We've got some images that were shot on an iPhone 8 Plus, old technology, crappy night vision. But, they've got to have better stuff than this. Do you think they've got better results than what they're actually been sharing, Ed?
Well, of course they do. I watched another podcast today with Lue, and he was just explaining how the government has so much more material that it has not released, that when it finally comes out, it's going to be a big surprise to everyone. Yeah. But you know what we're missing? We're talking about that being black. Seeing a lot of these that are either black or white. We remember seeing some from Chris Bledsoe that were orange. But where are all the exotic colors? Have you ever seen like a purple UAP or something like that?
The ones that fly in front of my house, it's like I'm not going to call it a racetrack. I'm going to call it like it's a nature path where they go on a regular basis right in front of my house, literally in front of my driveway. running, literally parallel to the street where I live. They're bright orange. Now, the last one and I've seen about 4 or 5 of those that have been bright orange, but the last one I saw was white. But as I was going ahead and recording it with my phone, I had something kind of fly by my head that looked like, it felt like, sometimes you get those giant nighttime moths that fly by your head and something buzzed by. But when I went back and I actually looked at the footage of what happened, I had a really bright green element, let's call it a small sphere or orb, that was actually came by and flew by my head. So as I was watching and recording things up in the sky, I had small things coming down and checking me out. So
it's strange that they keep morphing themselves into other things. Mine was white with a bunch of antenna coming out of it, various colors, but the basic sphere was white, and it was very luminescent also.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of interesting studies that have come out too, Thomas, about the general removal of color from architectural elements. There's been this cultural shift, getting less away from color, 70s, 80s, and more into the blacks and whites. And is there a reason for that? That's larger than anybody realizes. And your original point, I think, is important too. The nomenclature that's going around. I'm more and more convinced. I'm more and more thinking along the lines of, it's not so much about disclosure, but it's about timed reveal, and all of these changes to the nomenclature and trying to standardize or maybe even confuse vocabulary is by design to an extent.
Yeah. Well, would you think it's by design to go ahead and confuse the public?
Well, I think it's, it can be twofold. So you have, one line that is they're preparing us. And in preparing, they, what was the first thing they had to do? We had to get away from UFO because that was so stigmatized. Then we got UAP, and that's beginning to get confused, mixed in. So maybe they're trying it out for size, seeing if it takes, seeing how it responds to it, and does it seem to give more legitimacy to an extent.
Well, Gene, I think we're there right now with the way we describe those, because we talk about objects that are very large in the sky, look like a school bus or a tank or whatever. And then you've got your small orbs that are very bright. And then you've also got what we thought were drones, which, again, I believe are alien or NHI of some type. So, yeah. And the emphasis here, I think, is they're trying to just maybe match what we're doing, because you said something about society is changing to kind of black and white. I've seen that in a lot of the advertising. Well, maybe the NHI says, maybe we need to mimic that. They maybe are doing what we do and just teasing us with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the inverse, they're subtly influencing us and we didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
It could go both ways, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't even really think about that. So all of a sudden, if everything starts becoming black and white, do we blame an NHI for a change in our total culture then, or what?
Well, then you can go, you can start relating it to some of the psionics and the consciousness and the ideas around the cosmic influences, and is it just more part of a natural progression that we become more, let's say, scientifically minded, and that's generally what the muted color patterns represent, whether it's in branding, or anything like that. It's, you get those grays, it looks science, grays and whites, and it looks like science, and, could all be part of a progression.
Yeah. It could be, because if we look at it, when Wright-Patterson security forces on the ground confirmed the objects were drones, Riverside police again were contacted. The report categorizes the incident as a swarm involving multiple unmanned crafts. So definitely there is a situation here when they're seeing these guys that it's not just one or a couple. In this one, they're literally calling it like a swarm. And the last time I heard them talk about swarms was when we had the incidents happen on the West Coast by the Channel Islands, when they had a destroyer group that was inundated by UFOs that were, if you want to call it, looked like pyramids in the sky.
Why do you think they come in cycles, though, Thomas? I mean, Look at what happened at Wright-Pat in kind of swarms and in cycles of periods of time. Same thing with the New Jersey drones. The same thing out in Colorado when that big one hit.
Yep.
Seems they hit, they stay there for a week or two, and then they go away and then pop up somewhere else.
There's a mission or something they're up to that even if the government is aware of it, they're not making us aware of it. So for my particular situation, if we're seeing these things, it's a pattern of life. It's an objective. It's just not random things going on. I've learned from being a video game developer my entire career going on, close to 37, let's call it 40 years at this point, that at this situation, whenever you're creating code for stuff, you could call something random, but still those events are planned and they're triggered and there's something going on. And I have no doubt that whatever they're doing, like the stuff that they saw off in Colorado and in the, if you want to call it, the Rockies area for a period of time, they were, those drones appeared on a nightly basis. There were motherships that were out there flying in the sky that the drones were coming out from. And those things were moving back and forth in a search pattern, no different than what we saw on the East Coast in November and December of last year, where these drones were coming in, moving in a search pattern, clearly looking for something.
You just got my head spinning. It would be nice if we had some more insight on that, but it's just a matter of us as lookers waiting for a new set to pop up and then see if we can make some identification.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to try and tie it to what was going on geopolitically within the country or the world. It's like when our tension really builds up in America, is that when we're more vulnerable to these kind of sightings?
It could be, but it could just be a part of opportunity. Go ahead, Gene.
No, I was going to say, I mean, we can discuss it offline, Ed, or afterwards. I ran some experiments, again, based on the documentation we have that looked at the optimum operating conditions that were necessary and found these correlations to things like, increased gravitational fields, increased positioning of the moon, and these other factors. And so some of it may very well just be tied to optimum conditions to sort of run these operations, whatever they may be. And I bet with not a whole lot of work, but just a little bit of effort, we might be able to find some of those correlations in retrospect now that we have some dates.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I ran a test in December 2024. And, very unscientific, but based on the same principle. And I had a, 60% correlation, just, pulling it out of my butt, essentially, the idea. And I've perfected it a little bit more since then. And it remains consistent, finding the location and able to correlate sightings.
Well, so if there are sightings going on, and there's things happening on a nightly basis, we do have the Tedesco brothers, the Nightcrawler crew as they're called, on the East Coast. So if something happens in their particular area, maybe they can get off the beaches where they're at and move to those locations. And just like the crew that they have from Aro, get out there and do some on-the-spot recording of these things. Also, like we had Liberty Wings in the United Kingdom, who was out there night after night doing citizen recording of the drone invasion that was happening at the multiple air bases and military locations within the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I've got a contact for the one of the Massachusetts MUFON investigators with the Tedesco brothers, and we've already started having some of those conversations to take it to the field. So maybe we can include it on a live feed sometime, like here.
Yeah, that would be great if we can get back to the story here now. On Event 4 on December 17th, 2024 at 1800 hours, I believe that's 6 p.m., on aircraft on approach, reportedly seeing a silver drone approximately 5 nautical miles south of Wright-Patterson to 3,200 feet. Sounds like a sphere to me. The pilot took no evasive action. FAA quality assurance later logged the coordinates, placing the object within the Dayton area, consistent with the Wright-Patterson region. Now, here's the good one. Let me open this one up. See if I can get this open image, a new tab. Let's see if I can bring this image up here next. Let's go ahead and do it. All right, so in our next piece, we're talking about Event number 5 on December 19th, 2024. The most unusual report came from an aircraft westbound at 16,000 feet near Appleton, roughly 70 to 80 miles northeast of Wright-Patterson. The crew reported a drone passing beneath them by about 500 feet and described it as a black cube. When is a drone a black cube, Gene? It's not. What the fuck?
Again, I'm no pilot, but the little I do know of aerodynamics, there's nothing about that makes you say it should fly unless it's hollow down the bottom and you got a candle in it.
Yeah.
And I think what people are trying to do is to describe with a name what it is based upon its size. That's where we're going wrong there. So let's basically assume or accept that a drone could be a 1 pound object or it could be a 1,000-pound object. Still a drone. And a cube can be a 1 pound cube or a 1,000-pound cube. Still a cube.
Sure. When you look at military drones, they deliver weapon payloads and all the rest of it. Those things are as big as, a quote unquote normal aircraft.
When you look at drones or potential UAS, we're not seeing something that is literally a black cube, because where's the rotors? Where's anything to make this fly? That does not look like a UAS. But as I was saying earlier, they are clearly trying to take everything that could be a UAP, and now probably under direction of the DOD, they are clearly calling out everything as a drone or UAS. So let's continue on this one. FAA Quality Assurance assigned coordinates to the sighting, placing it well east of the base, but it occurred within the same week as other incursions and was documented with the same Skywatch dataset, now located within the drone sightings near airports. Reports located at the FAA's website. Let me go ahead and bring up those reports. Come on, you can get them. Let me pull this off. 1 second. Gotta love live production. Here we go. The sighting described as a black cube is listed. However, the description of it being a black cube was removed or intentionally not included. Go figure. So they're still trying to cover this stuff up. Let me get this next picture up here. All right, let's bring it up here for Wright-Patterson. Okay, let's get back to the end of the story here. The earlier Air Force records documented numerous sightings by security force personnel of multiple drones over areas A and B of Wright-Patterson, some flying in formations and performing rapid altitude changes. Many were described as turning the lights off when they approached security guards or checkpoints, maneuvering in ways consistent with evasion, visual and otherwise, and in some cases appearing over sensitive areas like the flight line and the base gates. However, the black cube sighting did not appear in the Air Force release. The FAA records now confirmed that during the same operational window, pilots and controllers were also logged with high altitude, unusually shaped drone activity, broadening the scope of what's occurring in the region's airspace. Now, the FAA data mirrors many of the Air Force incident points, but adds radar swarm data. Aircraft and precise coordinates were available. The coordinates from the December 17th silver drone sighting in place with the Wright-Patterson Airport vicinity, while the December 19th black cube coordinates are farther east, but along the flight corridor that would connect with the operational area around the base during the week's security incidents. So let me bring up the next image. Let's bring it up. Here we go. Boom. Now, this is while most of the December 2024 events involve drones at altitudes that could be considered typical of hobbyists or small commercial systems, the black cube, reported at 16,000 feet, raises questions about the capabilities that are far beyond those of standard small UAS operations. Whether connected to the Wright-Patterson incursions directly or as a separate high-altitude event altogether. Its incursions in the FAA Skywatch reporting during the same security surge is notable. Now, as the Black Vault continues to say, together the Air Force and FAA Foia release now established multiple confirmed incursions occurred over and around Wright-Patterson in December 2024, which is uncontested at this point, including swarms that the base closure and Notum airfield were directly tied to UAS activity that the FAA radar detected, up to 17 simultaneous targets. That's why they called it a swarm. Within 40 miles, and that a rare pilot report sighting of that black cube, of course, at high altitude was documented during the same period. Now, these details expand the public record and offer new leads in understanding the scale and sophistication of the aerial activity that prompted the Wright-Patterson partial shutdown. Wow, this is just really interesting, Gene. It seems like we keep on getting these little breadcrumbs that are coming into the overall sphere of drones coming in. Cube, I should say, but
no. And again, the language is interesting. I mean, that term swarm is somewhat ominous. So again, it's about this question of intent. Yeah. And are they specifically choosing the word swarm for dramatic effect? Is it just inappropriate to call it a flock? Do we not have another?
I've never heard of a flock of drones yet. I think swarm seems to be the one they talk about.
Could be a new band, but that swarming sort of effect, again, use of that terminology. Again, it's the intent behind it kind of makes me wonder.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's time for us to do a poll on this one. Let's see where our audience goes ahead and takes us on. We're going to try and do this with each of the topics we're going through tonight. Let me go ahead and bring this up as the question. The Wright-Patterson.
While you're doing that, Thomas, I'll remind you, Gene, it could also be a plethora. I think that would be a good term to describe the ships up there.
Yeah, that's, I don't know if there's an appropriate, trying to rack my brain as we were sitting, is there an appropriate aeronautical term for a formation, or, is it not a formation because it's expected to be more aligned or streamlined?
Yeah. Let's make it
certainly works.
All right, so let me go ahead and hide that, go back to here, get back to this one. All right, so I've got a survey going. Hey, Google, set a timer for 1 minute and 30 seconds, please.
Sure, 1 minute and 30 seconds. And we're starting
now. All right, folks, we got a minute and 30 left to go on this one. It looks like we have got 73 votes in already so far. Only 12% of our respondents are saying that it's human only. Some of our people saying, it's supposed to say adversarial. That was a typo on me. NHI adversarial, 38%. But there we go. 49% of our audience, a high amount of our audience members are saying we've got a combination of human and NHI. What do you think, Gene?
It could be. Again, the size and numbers are what I think becomes more impractical on the human side, again, unless it's all coordinated and the government actually knows and is allowing all of this. But to build, construct, materials, all the things that go into building something that size, launching it, and doing it without somebody noticing, in the neighborhood, in the area, even as remote as some areas may be. Again, it just it seems much less likely that nobody would have flagged. You go into Home Depot now and you buy duct tape and fertilizer and everything else, and you got Homeland Security knocking on your door. I would imagine the volumes of material that you need to construct those types of drones would obviously get somebody flagged somewhere and get a knock on the door.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. If we take a look at this with survey started, we went a little bit longer than we usually do, but our survey started. Let's kick off the sound effect. Let's go ahead and take a screenshot of this for posterity and bring up the final results. Would you look at that? 52% of our audience is saying that it's a combination of human and NHI. Ed, I know you're taking a stand that this stuff is NHI based. Are you willing to go along with the audience and say it could be a combination of both?
No, I was looking at that as it was popping up, and that number started surprising me. I don't think it was a combination of both, because of what we've been talking about. These things pop up at different places around the country, different times, no warning at all, no indication of what they're going to look like or what they're doing. So who on earth would have, on the human side, any craft that they would launch at that same time in order to either intercept or to take pictures of what of them? I can just picture, somewhat humorously, we talked about the black cube. Commander at Wright-Pat said, okay, we got a black cube. Let's bring out the black cube airplane and match theirs. It's just not going to happen.
I hear you, my friend.
We don't know what's going to pop up. And every time, the same at Langley, every time something pops up, it's like, we don't know what to do about it. Then they pop up in New Jersey. We don't know what to do about it.
Well, there is new legislation coming out that's sponsored by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and another Republican within the Senate that would give military bases the ability to shoot down any UAS, UFO, UAP, or anything or drone that would come in unauthorized over their airspace. And I think that's a good idea because you know what? China's not just had this law within regards to over their military bases. They have it over the entire country. So if there's an unauthorized drone in any place in China, they will take them down. And I think they've got a good idea on that one.
But we've never seen that happen. I mean, that I know of. Do you know of any actual captured? Unless you start putting the psionics people in there and talk about, pulling them down using psionics, and same as shooting them down. If you can get them to land and capture them, you're just as well off as if you'd shot them down. But I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen plenty of videos in China of them going ahead and shooting these things down. Gene?
No, I said that's the interesting thing. There's all sorts of technology, in the law enforcement military communities for taking down quote unquote drones. Why not at least try that? Why not have that? It seems for the small hobbyists, they've got that covered, how to take it down. You can't tell me it's that much of a stretch if they honestly believe these are other human-made drones to apply that technology and give it a shot.
Yeah.
Thomas?
Yes, sir.
I was going to say that black cube that was in that picture. Perhaps is it possible that the U.S. jets have tried to shoot down these things and they've lost their aircraft? Like the Soviets, when they were trying to chase those UFOs and they got shot down and the Soviets said, we have to stop.
I don't think we've hit that point yet. But you bring up a good point, Freezer Man. Anyone else in the back want to counter that?
Yeah, I don't think they... I certainly haven't heard of, again, the similar type of response by an aircraft, but I think there's enough, again, the research, I've been doing where we're able to look at the blueprints, the drawings that we have, and we've found the matching, or we've found the technology that can counter it. So I posted something about it earlier, Thomas, that we've developed systems to take down technology that the government doesn't acknowledge exists.
Yeah.
I think the other thing we need to consider is, let's assume that we do have the technology, either the psionics or the weapons, directed weapons, that can bring them down. Now, let's assume we have actually captured a craft that is NHI, totally not from this planet, or at least not from anything we'd understand. How on earth would we even have a clue as to where it came from? Unless there are witnesses on board that say, okay, we fess up, we're from Constellation, whatever. How would we know where they came from? I just don't follow that.
Michael Sokoloff, you have something to say?
Yeah, from the reports I've read and what I've seen, I don't think we're capable of shooting these objects down. There's just no way.
Well, we'll find out once they try.
Well, but they have. Some of the reports have said, like back in the 50s,
I'm just talking recent times, recent days, recent technology. We haven't, the United States hasn't had the balls to shoot any of this stuff down. Now with the current legislation that's coming in, they may have that opportunity, Michael. So we can say what happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s. This is focusing on what we're going to try and do today.
So are we going to just ignore what happened in the past?
We can look what happened in the past, but if we want to shoot these things down and see what it actually is there potentially, that's going to have to happen today.
Well, you know, when I saw one of these things take off, I mean, it was almost the only way you can describe it is like he took off at the speed of light.
Yep.
How are you going to catch these things? You're never going to have a missile.
Well, if it's a drone, then
these guys.
If it's a drone, they should be able to shoot it down then, right?
If it's a drone run by a human, yeah, they'll shoot it down.
Yeah.
You know.
And again, some of the technology that I've looked at, Michael, you know, it's I just have it up here. You know, they have these HAARP using powerful radio waves to excite and manipulate the ionosphere to create localized plasma fields. Again, those are sort of based on the idea of how they might operate. So a lot of it is more of this MHD, gravitational plasma field manipulations. Now, how quickly any of that's, you know, actually on market, developed and ready to deploy at any number of locations is the other question. But it looks like they're at least heading in that direction.
Yeah. Well, I guess time will tell on this one. It's something we can look forward to finding out. The drone situation is not going away. If not, it's heating up. And once we have the opportunity to go ahead and try and shoot some of the stuff down, the evidence, if the government shares it with us or other people do, then we'll have to have an idea of potentially what these things could be. Now,
well, there's another possible explanation that is a little more dangerous for us. Let's assume this again. I'm just going out on a proposal here. Let's assume that they are in fact alien, and our government knows that we know nothing about them. Maybe they're afraid to shoot it down for fear of retaliation. So you've got 1,000 drones out there. We shoot one of them down. You got 999 drones pointing at your gun.
Yeah, that could be it, my friend. You know what? And again, let's give it some time. Let's not go ahead and write any of this kind of stuff off. It's an interesting situation to say the least. The drones situation has captured the attention of people around the world in more ways that potentially UFOs never have. But if we can, I'd like to get on to our next story here. Where did that just go? All right, let's go ahead and bring this one over and bring it up. Yes, there's a new bar and grill. Well, it's a bar and cantina at this point. It's opened up in Buffalo, Wyoming by none other than Lue Elizondo. Yes, we've got to cover that here. Yes, he is now open for business. Let me bring this up. No, not that one. There we go. Let's go ahead and play this little video of the opening ceremony of Lue and his wife, Jennifer, and everybody else at the new Bombshells. Let's see what they have to say, and then we'll get into the story about it.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of a very, very grateful family, this establishment is dedicated to you. And I want to also do a very special thank you right now, not only to our muralist, who when you go in there, you're going to see something that is absolutely stunning. I also want to thank the mayor here for coming out here and doing this for all of us. And thank each and every one of you for what you've done and what you continue to do for our wonderful community. So thank you very much. Mayor?
We're happy you're here. I know walking through, you can kind of get sentimental. And when you see the wall of heroes, it's great. It's touching. So, you know, a hero, talk to one of these two, and they can get a picture, a name, a little story about them up on the wall. So, salute your local. Are we ready?
All right, cut the ribbon and open it up.
Cut this ribbon and then trim a tree. Now, before I cut it, you got to be sure to, support these two really good too. It's going to be my new hangout.
There we go. Now, what the hell are we talking about? Well, yes, there is a new bar and grill called Bombshells. It's open up in Buffalo, Wyoming, not that far from where Lue lives. Now, getting to the story, why are they doing this potentially? Lue Elizondo's father was a successful restaurateur, but growing up, Elizondo swore he was never going back to work in a restaurant. Life has a way of twisting such useful vows and making them come true anyway. So this is Lue. So it is that Lue Elizondo finds himself opening a place he calls Bombshell's American Cantina in Buffalo, Wyoming. It's a cocktail lounge and restaurant project he started with his friend Tucker Alger, whom he met in Buffalo. There we go. There's a shot up of Tucker there. Let's get to the overall crew at there. Here we go. The path for an Army veteran landing in Buffalo and starting a restaurant, despite that childhood vow to never work in a restaurant, is a long and winding one. It started when he was a boy, hearing his father tell him that if he wanted to learn about leadership, he first had to learn to serve. That led him to join the Army right after college. It was not only a way to learn about leadership, but a way to give back to the country he felt had given so much to him and his family. Quote, everyone calls me Lue, quote, end quote, he told the Cowboy State Daily, because being Cuban, I look like I'm from Iowa. But Spanish is one of my primary languages, so after college, I decided to serve our nation. And after that, I became a special agent in the intelligence community. The Army sent him to Asia, where he encountered a curious thing, officers' clubs. But these weren't modern at all. They were vintage with cool World War II vibe. It felt like stepping back in time as it planted a strange thought in his head. Wouldn't it be cool? That one? Yeah, there we go. Wouldn't it be cool to experience what was one of those was like? I mean, like camaraderie, he said, and the sense of patriotism and pride that we used to have as a country, and that somehow was lost over the years. So it looks like, Lue Elizondo, not that one, and his wife Jennifer and his partner and their wife, it looks like they've got a lot of fun times ahead. Now, 9 out of 10 restaurants or bars that open fail. Let's hope there's be more than enough community going to visit them from locally and other people who want to go hang out with Lue at the bar over a drink. I think that sounds like a great idea. Anyone in the back, what do you think?
I think that's probably first of all good for him. It's a wonderful thing. I'm glad he has the background. I think we can equally take it with a little bit of terror, though. He allegedly knows what's coming in the next few years, and as you said, only 20% of businesses like this survive after the first 5 years. So he might be going into this knowing something that come a few years, he doesn't have a bill to pay anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's great to see there's someone else there to help shelter the burden of everything that's going on, but it's just one of those things you want to go ahead and take a look at and give him props for what he's trying to do. Interesting thing about the story, though, not one mention of UFOs, UAP, or any of his time at ATIP or anything. So clearly focusing on his military service, but it's not a UFO disclosure.
You know what surprises me, Thomas, is that he would be that open about this. Again, I just watch I watch his interviews wherever I can. And I just saw one today where he said his life had been threatened several times over what he knows.
Oh, his life has been threatened several times. My life has been threatened many times to go ahead and because I'm associated and working with Lue Elizondo too many times to count. So yeah, but the way Lue taught me, or if you want to call it, had me guide this, he's like, yeah, if I get my life threatened on almost a daily basis. It's something that I'm used to. So it's something that goes on. You just have to take it with a grain of salt and don't let it get to you in here because it'll affect what you're doing out there.
Yeah, so there's a noticeable difference between just having your life threatened when you're in the home or on the road and having a permanent place where you're going to be like this. He's probably going to be in there quite a bit. Yeah. If someone wanted to find him, they would probably find him right there. It just catches me off guard as to why he would be that open. If I were him, or if I'm me, and I get my life threatened 2 or 3 times, I'd get in that bunker and I'd make sure I was pretty well protected most of the time.
Yeah,
I would imagine that's why he's wearing that long shirt. I'm sure he is out there in Wyoming. But
in other words, there's something underneath that.
yeah, I'm sure it also speaks to just him trying to move on, and maybe he's just saying, listen, I've tried, I've done what I can, I've put everything out there that I can, and now I'm just going to enjoy myself, and maybe it's a little bit of a psychological pillow for him in a sense.
Yeah,
that he feels good about what he's done, what he's tried to do. And if they don't want him anymore, he'll just move on with life and do something that he enjoys.
yeah. Given enough, they actually have a piano player to go ahead and be there in the evening who's dressed like Humphrey Bogart, and his name is Sam. So when people say, hey, play it again, Sam, it actually does.
I'll take a trip out there, see if I can do a duet with him.
Oh, gosh, yes. And it's a place that's honoring Americans who serve, although the Cantina will highlight World War II with hands-on living history. Even Lue's got a bunch of old Jeeps and everything from World War II. Well, tons of memorabilia, the kind he can shoot, too. Don't think that'll be winding up at the bar. It's more about reviving the esprit de corps, which he feels has gone missing from America amid rancorous partisan divides. Everyone's forgotten about those who have served. So good for him to try and get there. If you do want to go there, America's Bombshell's America Cantina is located at 58th North Side Creek in Buffalo. Hours are from 1 to 10 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. What happened to the 2 a.m. closing time?
He's our drinking generation right there. He's 10 p.m.'s well late enough.
Well, if you're drinking heavy, yeah, that's more than late enough. But then again, you need to get an Uber or a cab to get home. Okay, where the hell was it? Let's get back into the solo, and no, not that one. Here we go. Let's go ahead and figure out what is the next story we're talking about. I don't remember, but we're going to know. Yes. Wow, would you look at that? Bryce welcomes Richard Dolan. Yes, as we all heard on, even from our title card that we had up here today for today's show. Let's go ahead and, let's just bring it up like this. Let's get to this one. Document solo. All right. So, Richard Dolan has replaced Ross Colhart as the co-host of Need to Know. Now, what is that going to change? How is it going to get there? Well, we're not going to get these salacious stories and innuendos and crazy stories that come forward with people who we won't identify, like his last thing, going ahead and saying the Tic Tacs were from Lockheed. It upset everybody in the industry, but he's still part of it out there. But it seems that Bryce and Richard Dolan, who have written books together in the past, are going to have a good time coming together. They're going to have a monthly podcast. Now, the difference between Richard Dolan and Ross is Richard Dolan, if I'm correct, is primarily historian. So we're going to get a lot more historical context going on. We may get some stuff relating to recent things that are happening, but I see this as an interesting change. Laura, I know you're a member of Richard Dolan's community. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I can actually speak to this because I listened to his members broadcast talking about it last night. And he said it's going to be different. They've known each other for 15 years. They get along very well. And he said that he doesn't like to chase headlines. He'll let other people do that, but Richard likes to look at things from a broad perspective instead of, and you will get the history with him, but you will also get moments where he'll be talking about current events, and even he'll dip into political things. But it's so fascinating. I can't get enough of. That's why I've been a member for years. So I think it's going to get a different audience, richer audience. A lot of the people that already follow him will be watching that. And it's only a commitment for him 1 day a month. So for a friend like Bryce, it was easy, yes.
So, yeah, it's not like they're going to be going daily. They're not going to be going weekly. So once on a monthly basis, yeah, it's something easily that kind of Bryce can jump in, or what do you call it? Richard can jump into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Oh, same here. Michael Sokoloff, your hand is up on this one.
Yeah, as Richard pointed out, that he's not a reporter. He is basically a historian and a researcher. So it'll make the show a little different. But listening to the first episode was a good conversation.
Yeah,
and they covered some stuff and pointed out all kinds of stuff with the government and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be a good show.
Yeah, they covered a lot of the first book that was out there and everything, and they wanted to go ahead and get to that point. And you know what? Actually, if we can, one of the first people out there to go ahead and actually talk about this was on Friday night. Mike actually brought it up. Let me go. I've got a painful look on my face here for some reason. Let's bring up this little clip here of Mike talking about his thoughts that Richard Dolan could be the new host. Let's see what Mike said at that time. Here we go.
No, not publicly. Because if you do, it's a credibility killer, which Ross is starting to find out. And this is also part of what led up to the divorce between him and Bryce, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I agree with Michael. It is unfortunate. It was a good show. Yeah. They actually did a good job together. Yeah. And Bryce seems to have been the one that was grounded and made the same points that you and I usually make about things. And he's also very good friends with Richard Dolan.
Yeah.
They co-authored the book after Disclosure together. So yeah, Ross's credibility took a hit, but Bryce's didn't.
But Ross's views on his podcast. So there we go. Mike did kind of point it out that there was a special relationship that was going on with between Bryce and Richard Dolan, and good for him on that one.
And they also pointed out, that they both still respect Ross, and they're not going to throw him under the bus.
No, that was in the last episode. Bryce did.
Well, I don't think he really threw him under the bus, but
well, yeah, there was 4 people on there, and everyone was going after him, saying, "What the hell are you talking about? The Tic Tacs being from Lockheed?" And everyone. I'm glad to see the community uniting on that front.
Yeah, well, he basically said that he disagrees, and that's his prerogative to disagree.
Yeah.
Well, you've got my attention on that, Thomas. Is the community really sold on the fact that is not the case, or what?
Yes. Everyone in the community united, everyone on X, for I'd say majority of the people who are pro-disclosure all completely threw Ross under the bus on this one. It was one of those situations you had to go and take a look at, where Ross has been coming out with these salacious claims that so many people have bought into. For instance, if I bring it up, what am I talking about? Oh, yeah, the rumors of a buried UFO go ballistic. Now that Ross maybe has a weakness, there's someone by the name of Money Penny who was coming out and saying, "Hey, Ross, I know where the buried UFO is, and I'm going to give you 3 hours to go ahead and answer that question. And if you don't, I'm going to go ahead and answer." Let me go ahead and bring up her challenge. And where did Brave go? Let me bring this one up here, and we'll go ahead and show it. Let's go ahead and listen to her challenge to Ross, which then turned into a fest over on X, and then a bunch of people were tweeting it on YouTube, and I didn't go after it. I should have potentially for people's interest, but I look at this stuff, and all I can hear coming out of it, honestly, is...
Oh! A bullshit artist.
Yes, it's all speculation. There's nothing from anybody that can prove any of this true or false. So everyone is making all these salacious claims about where the buried UFO is. But it's nothing that can be verified, and it's just one person talking about another person. And I think we even had Jon Stewart come out today and give another potential location where that could possibly be. Before I get ahead of myself too much, let me play the initial challenge from... the hell kind of name is Money Penny? I just have to say it. Let's go ahead and bring this up for those of you who missed it. We'll have fun with it. Here we go. Okay, so Money Penny, her challenge to Ross Coldheart. Let me bring that down, and here we go.
Hi, this is Moneypenny. This is a message to Ross Coulthard. You have 3 hours from now to contact me, and you have my contact details, we've spoken before, to be able to stop me revealing where a giant UFO, a huge giant UFO, is underneath a massive high security building. And now I have the evidence, and I'm going to release it in 3 hours' time, unless you contact me and tell me there is a very important national security issue that would stop me. Because I believe, in the interests of disclosure and of everybody who has been struggling with deception and secrets for far too long, that we have a right to know this. You told us about it more than 2 years ago. It's about time people knew the truth. 3 hours, counting. Speak to you soon, Ross.
So we had Moneypenny coming out and saying that this is in the United States, and she said where it was at. Then we have Jon Stewart coming out today saying that's not where it's at. I've got a different location potentially. Michael Sokoloff, your hand is up on this one.
I'm thinking maybe she got arrested and sent to El Salvador. Maybe that's where she is right now.
Yeah. Well, she's not AI. She's El Salvador. Good idea. it's all. Oh, how do I say?
We ain't found shit.
I'm not convinced that the giant UFO story coming from Ross Coulthard, based on the bullshit that we've heard from him in the past, the type of journalist that he currently is actually true. On that note, let me go ahead and start up a survey with their audience and let's see what people think. Let's call it Ross's giant UFO story.
We'll get a poll.
Real or fake? Let's get into this and see where our audience is going to take it. I know I'm going to vote as fake on this one. For me, Ross kind of showed his true colors when he came out with the story about Lockheed. And it's just, for me, it's just been a spiral of, when Ross had stories to talk about, he'd bring it out. When there weren't stories to come out, he made it about himself. So for that particular matter, my votes is saying the stories about the UFO are fake. I see, Gene, you're up. What say you?
No, I was just going to add, this was a situation where this threat that came out, all she was missing was the Dr. Evil Ninny Pinky as she was speaking. It didn't age well right away. And when the evidence was finally presented, it was so much a case that seemed to me of somebody really trying to make the evidence fit their theory.
Yeah.
And there was just nothing there. The core issue of the ridiculousness of building a facility around it aside, even if you accepted that core premise to begin with, this was just one more layer of nonsense.
Yeah.
And just a sort of, almost a desperate PR stunt in a sense.
Absolutely. If I could, one of our dear friends hasn't been around for a while, just joined in the back. Rick Doty, what is your take on this? Ross's giant UFO story. Do you think it's real or fake?
Oh, I think it's fake. I've heard so much false information coming out of Russ over the past year. I'm convinced, and it's just my feelings. It's just me, Rick Doty talking, that he's being used by U.S. intelligence, counterintelligence, as disinformation, because he put so much information out there that is he wouldn't normally have access to some of it. Some of it sounds real, and maybe a little bit of it is real, but the majority of what he's saying is false information or disinformation. So I wouldn't believe anything he said.
Yeah.
No, there's a location in Australia that some people are talking about.
Pine Gap?
Yeah, well, it's south of there. It's Woomera. It's Naranga. It used to be a facility associated with Pine Gap. It was in operation from about 1975 until about 2001. And then it was, as far as I know, and my sources told me it was shut down and everything from there was moved to Pine Gap. So I don't think there is anything there at in that location in Australia.
Awesome.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Glad to be back.
Yeah.
My wife is on the road to recovery, so we thank good Lord, all the prayers. She's had a little bit of a setback last week, but she's on the road to recovery, and
Excellent.
I want to thank everybody for their prayers.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. It's good to see you back, and good to hear that your wife is on a road to recovery. Our hearts and prayers have been with you all along, and it's great to see you poking your head up like a gopher. To see how things are.
Thank you.
Brian Pemble, your hand is up, my friend. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Rick, I literally just jumped in about 2 minutes before you did, because I wanted to get in on this topic real quick, and I appreciate it, Thomas. With what Jon Stewart's coming out with, there were two things. I talked to John this morning, and yes, he was talking about the base south of Woomera, and that was what he expressed to me. Now, what he released on Twitter is something I'm sure you're extremely familiar with, because I don't know if you remember when you, and I don't want to reveal back chat stuff, but when you actually, so Rick is so vested in disclosure that one time he slammed his hand in the back chat and had to go get stitches. I'm sure that's okay if I reveal that. But that night, you revealed a certain set of coordinates, I believe, that kind of caused that, as well as the knock on your door the next day. And that's what Jon Stewart revealed in his post. Now, he didn't reveal the coordinates, he just revealed the picture and said, oh, I know that. I remember that night from 2 years ago. So I'd be curious if you can comment on that.
Well, I can't say too much because, as you know, I kind of got zinged for saying what I shouldn't have said about the location and what was occurring at that location. But I did disclose coordinates that night, a number of different coordinates, two of which I shouldn't have ever talked about, that could have possibly contained something buried. But I don't want to go into what I got zinged for, but I know what you're talking about, Brian, and maybe in the back chat we can talk about it.
Yeah, and if I could, Thomas, I'm sorry. Do you think that Jon Stewart brought up the, and I've tried to ask John about it. He's gone radio silent this afternoon, or excuse me, this evening. Why did he bring up the Woomera area? The I can't pronounce the name. Nuremberg joint, the base beneath there, about 11 miles south of Woomera in Australia. Is that just a red herring, you think?
I think somebody told. I've had conversations with John today too. I think that is a red herring. I think somebody told Russ about that location. It was at the time a U.S. intelligence facility. We had highly classified equipment there. And it wasn't necessarily just for keeping track of satellites. It was actually to keep track of some strange objects that were flying out of the Indian Ocean. And I said it was in operation from about 75 until 2001 or so. And I don't have those dates. I might not have those dates right. But then it was closed and everything was moved to Pine Gap because the facilities at Nuranga, it's called, didn't have the proper electricity going to it. And Pine Gap did. And rather than trying to pump or build a new electrical transmission site down in an area that they couldn't, they moved everything up to Pine Gap, which is, of course, obviously a more modern facility. And they have newer, modernized AI and other equipment there. So now I don't know what's buried under Nuranga, and the people I talked to today who would know doesn't have any ideas or knew anything about anything buried under there. So that's what I know.
Yeah, and just for full disclosure for everybody, I did text Rick about the Narunga, if he knew about it or anything else earlier today. So I don't know if that put that on your radar, if you already knew about it, Rick, but I really appreciate it and hope your wife continues on her road to recovery. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Absolutely. Wonderful story, my friends. All right, so getting into the next into our next piece, we've got Jacques Vallee, who appeared on the Soul Forum today to go ahead and talk about the status of the classified UAP database. I think you're familiar with that from the OSAP days, Mike. Jacques Vallee had created a database of UFO sightings, UFO information that was created for the DoD under the OSAP program, and now we've got him coming out and talking about it. Let's go ahead and get to this video on this. Let's bring it up. Here we go, folks. Let's a little 10-minute video. Now, the full video on this will be coming up tomorrow, I believe, coming from the Soul Foundation. So this is a 10-minute teaser. Let's see what they have to say.
And how have they stayed the same? I ask you that because you provide a window into what was happening in the background in the BASS group, the OSAP group, and what came after. You call the group the Lone Stars in the book, which I think is a euphemism. But you give us a window into those conversations, and what I see there is that it shows that there's not as much consensus as people think, even among the best researchers.
The first interest, official interest and scientific interest in the subject just came from having all these reports from both from military people, but mostly from civilians who were exposed to the phenomenon. And the response was generally skeptical, but there was a feeling that, we cannot ignore those reports because, frankly, because the feeling of danger in international relations. There could be something going on that would be a threat. And that was not so much the case in Europe. I think in Europe the reaction was always one of curiosity, and scientific interest in a new report, because that's where science is made. But in the U.S., everything tends to be interpreted as a threat to the stability of the country and so on. And that's very much a cultural reaction. So that precipitated a number of classified studies. And then the Air Force with Project Blue Book, which lasted almost 20 years. The Blue Book was not classified, contrary to some of the things we still see in the press. And at the beginning, it was just eliminating one case after the other to give people the feeling that nothing was hidden, nothing was classified. You can report this, although pilots did not report. But the population reported, and there were radar data. There were that kind of thing. So that triggered a controversy within the scientific community as to the relevance of that. And the Air Force felt that they had other things to do. I mean, you join the Air Force to fly, the fastest, best planes you can find, and you don't want to be stuck in an office going through files, one after the other of somebody seeing a light at night. I mean, who cares? And the Air Force finally created or led to the creation of a study at the University of Colorado, led by Professor Condon, who was a distinguished physicist of the Oppenheimer generation. And after 2 years, they concluded that, in fact, there was no implied threat in the phenomenon. And although they did not explain all the cases they had looked at, but that generally they thought, and that's almost an exact quote, that science would not be advanced by investing more people and more money into the study of UFOs, which people understood to mean go home, there's nothing there. And it killed the research for over 10 years, probably 15 years. Fortunately, there were people like me who had other income. I mean, I had professional commitments in technology and then in the financing of advanced technology. And it's a credit to the people who invested in the venture funds that I ran with a small team of people that they knew. I mean, I never thought of hiding the fact that I was spending my own time studying UFOs. And in Silicon Valley, people thought that it was important to do that. So I was, in fact, supported by many of the people who invested in my funds, including the fund by NASA. So I had the privilege of having access to, I had no real secret access to anything except in very, very specific areas, but that was not relevant. I mean, most of the data came from people who had seen something and were reporting it openly, including cops, including university professors, and including farmers. The farmers were probably the best because they knew their territory very well, and they could see when when animals reacted to certain things. And there were traces. You could go to those places, which I did, with people who had experience with vegetation, with animals, with all that. And then Mr. Bigelow became interested, and I was part of...
Well, I have to say really quick, just here interrupting, Bob Bigelow, above and by far, is probably the individual that all of us would like to hear from. I know, Rick, you're familiar with Bob Bigelow and what he's done in BAAS and his different interactions with the government, with OSAP, and also developing the inflatable space station technology. They've got inflatable sections now that his company went and developed. If there's anyone who's out there that we could potentially see to go ahead and take the information and bring it out for what he knows and doesn't give a rat's ass about what's going to happen, would probably be Bob Bigelow. What do you think, Rick?
Oh, I agree 100%. Bob's working on a number of his company is working on a number of different classified projects dealing with space travel. And environmental systems for space travel, and he would be the guy. I'm not going to call him a close friend, but I know of him. I've had numerous conversations with him. I see him now and then, and I think he's the type of guy that could fit into that role that you're talking about. Yes. Yeah.
And if you look at what was going on during OSAP, they spent millions of dollars to create a facility underneath their current aerospace warehouse where they're manufacturing everything. They have a facility where it lacked an Earth's atmosphere where they could bring, if you want to call it, materials, whether it's from a craft or biological, whether it's actually mechanical or biological, that they could bring to his facility for further inspection. And they actually built that facility. It was funded by the federal government. And you just have to wonder, why would they want to build a facility that lacked an atmosphere, the Earth atmosphere? The only reasons I could see, Rick, are two things. One, if it's a device when gone and exposed to the Earth atmosphere, it would self-destruct, or potentially if they had biological specimens that they brought in, that lack of an atmosphere would prevent those biological specimens from potentially escaping.
I think you hit the nail right on the head there, Thomas. You're absolutely right. I think the latter, the biologics,
yes,
that we could have that have to be enclosed in a special environmental container, so to speak, to prevent those biologics from dying or from decaying rapidly.
Right.
And so that's, you're absolutely right. I think you hit it. You hit a home run on that one.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rich. Rick, I appreciate that. It's just something you look at and you just wonder, why would they have a facility that they're bringing stuff in that lacks an atmosphere? And it just, it's a barrier to prevent whatever they're working with from escaping and getting out.
Right.
Yeah. They tried it with COVID and it didn't work. So,
right.
If it could, Gene, you have your hand up, my friend.
I was just going to add to, support your position. NASA already has the underwater extreme environment modules for the space station. They already have those things to test equipment.
Well, that's like for testing the equipment and testing the stuff. But yeah, I guess potentially, yes, that could be something similar.
Yeah, they already have it. So you're right. Why build something new, especially to that extreme?
Right. It seemed like it was a facility being set up to bring stuff in for them to do testing. Because, Gene, the way I looked at it is, if a UFO crashed and things happened, and if this technology was exposed to the atmosphere, that technology could have been designed in a manner to have it self-destruct and deteriorate once exposed to atmosphere, saying that, this stuff, it's been compromised. We need to make it go away so they can never do anything with it.
Well, and that's probably a lesson they've learned over 70, 80 years of grabbing things, is if we want to preserve it, if we want to study it more, we need a special facility for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great points, my friend. Now, coming into our next point, I've got a dear friend of mine over on X, Bruce Fenton, who's been talking about, and looking at evidence. He's a scientist out of Australia. He's been looking at and trying to track down what's been going on with the human brain, the human biology over a period of time. And he's got it tracked down to about 780,000 years ago, I believe. I could be off a little bit here, that there was a major change that happened to the human brain, and he's tracking it down to potentially there could have been an intervention in species on the planet that resulted in the creation of humanity. I've got a little 4.5-minute clip here that I've got permission to play. There's a 26-minute clip we'll play another time, but let's just play this little one here to get along. And he's a phenomenal researcher. He's been talking about the tektites that have come down. It's no different than what they've recently discovered and been talking about for identifying that the Younger Dryas period was a result of a comet impact. Bruce Fenton has results showing that there was another impact that happened a lot longer before that was a result of an alien craft, that potentially of advanced technology that fell into our planet. So let's get to this little clip here. I think our audience, and you will find this enlightening. Here we go.
As well. But right here we have this sudden acceleration, which is no longer coupled to body size. It's just our head is, our skull is just expanding, our brain is expanding, and goes off the charts. So they knew that something weird had happened around 800,000 years ago. We've known that from the fossil record for many decades. What we didn't know is why. But with genetic studies, we started to understand that is coupled to a lot of weird changes that are going on, not least chromosome 2, but not only. again, in the last few months, another event, strength of my work, is the discovery of a chance event around 1 million years ago that changed human brains forever. I contacted the team. I wanted to check about that date, because I'm picking me a vague date. I said, you actually saying it's 1 million years ago? And they said, no, we're not. We just know that it happened before the split from Neanderthals and Denisovans, somewhere in that point. So the same point we've been dealing with chromosome 2. Again, I like to check these things. If you're going to propose something like this as real, you've got to be able to, stand there and debate with people that will make a fool of me if I get this wrong. So I wanted to make sure that I understood what they were saying and I wasn't wrong. So there is a chance rearrangement of the human genome, so not 1 million years ago, so at the beginning of that shift which we talked about, closer to 800,000 years ago, probably kick-started the evolution of modern humans from our primate ancestors. A recent study explains why human DNA contains sections, many of which are involved in brain development, that are unique to us and are not shared even with our closest relative, chimpanzees. Their research so far does show just how unique and unlikely the evolution of the human brain really is. So in other words, this is an event that happens overnight. This isn't not slow accumulation of mutations. What they have found is there was a singular event. They think either a single sperm or a single egg or a single fetus, but there is a massive rearrangement of the human genome, and it changed it in ways where parts that are now touching, which activate segments which change our brain, particularly change our brain. There's nothing else like it. They compared this, it came out of a study called the Zoonomia Project, which was contrasting a range of mammals, hundreds of mammals. We are unique. This does not occur in any other mammal species. So there's a range of other changes in there, hundreds, that are unique to us, called human accelerated regions. And these are in what's called non-coding DNA regions. And in fact, profoundly conserved regions. So if you think of the genome, we have genes, which most people know about genes. We also have what used to be called junk DNA. That's now called non-coding DNA.
Well, I want to bring up junk DNA. That's one of the areas, Gene, that Lue Elizondo was pointed out to say, if we look at our junk DNA, the answers to the manipulation of the human genome lies in this point, and there's evidence of that. What are your thoughts?
No, absolutely. And I think it's all starting to come together and paint this picture. We can look at what we're doing in Mars and Mars exploration and search for microbial life. What's the natural progression as we discover those things? We're going to start messing with it to figure it out. So the idea that this was done on a scale millions of years ago and these types of processes began, you figure in like Dr. Villarreal's recent work.
But aren't we doing this today? We're making modifications to the DNA of individuals with CRISPR and other things to get rid of diseases, but we're also taking parts of the human DNA and injecting them into mice and chimpanzees and other beings to raise their awareness, which is no different than what potentially happened, 800,000 years ago at the start of humanity.
Not at all. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It fits in the logic, like you said. It's what we do. So why are we to believe nobody else would do it?
Bingo. If humanity's doing it today, why couldn't another species have done that to create humanity? Because especially if you look at the amount and how much we've gone and advanced in the last 100 years, it's crazy. Compared to the overall scope of things of humanity, something popped in, something gave us stuff, has been continually giving us stuff to put us on this, hockey curve of evolution that just doesn't align to any other species on the planet, and there's no other way to explain it.
No. And as I said, look what we've done just in dog breeding.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Good point, my friend. We've got about 2.5 minutes left. Let's watch the rest of this one. Bruce Fenton's a great guy. I got to try and get him on here because he is a phenomenal scientist. Here we go.
In non-coding DNA, we have highly conserved regions, which are strips of code which haven't changed in millions of years, tens of millions or hundreds of millions of years, and are identical or near to identical across all mammals. So they are doing something profoundly important. When they change, mostly the organisms die. So the best example is HAR1. So things on this one. HAR1, first one they discovered a few years back. They contrasted this is a 118 letter long sequence, and they ran the tests on this. So they said that this basically should be identical in our species, chimps particularly. So they ran it against chimpanzees and chickens. Chickens have been distinct from us for 300 million years. Chimps only for about 7. So when they contrasted these species, what they found is that between the chimp and the chicken, HAR1 had 2 successful mutations. So one successful change for every 150 million years of evolution. That's pretty darned fixed. So we know the kind of the rate it should change at. When they contrasted the same segment between chimps and humans, where there should be no change, 7 million years, that's nothing in that scale, they found that 18 letters had changed. And so they say the fact that HAR1 was essentially frozen in time through hundreds of millions of years indicates that it does something very important. That it then underwent abrupt revision in humans suggests that this function was significantly modified in our lineage. Statistically speaking, the probability that a highly conserved DNA sequence will change multiple times over 6 million years of evolution is close to 0. That's Catherine.
Gene, I have to bring this up again. I like his train of thought. He's comparing humans to other species on the planet, showing the changes that happen to us compared to other species, and there's nothing they can compare to it, truly pointing out that there has been things screwing with our DNA.
No, and I think, if we look back and you consider that sort of evolution, it's somewhat, survival of the fittest, but which mix did they come up with that created the brand they said, okay, this is the one we're going to go forward with. And we lucked out that way.
Yeah. Interesting situations all around, my friend. It's great to see Bruce going ahead and diving into this and trying to bring out the truth and bring out scientific fact. And for me, at this point, it's beyond a shadow of a doubt that what he's trying to communicate here is something that actually helped us get to where we're at. And it's one of the things I've been saying, Gene, for the longest time. If you want to see an alien hybrid, look in the mirror.
Exactly.
Almost I listening to you and Gene on this discussion. It seemed like you were implying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was doing it to us. I think it was more of them doing it to us, and it may have been multiple different cultures.
Yeah,
and
potentially.
I wonder if that's why we have cultural differences today, that the different cultures were in fact DNA implanted from different NHIs.
It could be, yeah. The different races we have here, you have an Asian race, you have a European race, you have an African race. Those could potentially be from different NHI that have been screwing with their DNA.
Oh, absolutely.
Enoch, the witness, your hand is raised. Be nice.
Muted.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly point out, if it was, say, one of the human type extraterrestrials that created us, well, let me rephrase that. Was it one of the non-human extraterrestrials that helped create us, or one of the human? And if it was one of the non-human extraterrestrials, why would they create us to be human if there are other human type extraterrestrials? Just wanted to throw that one out there. So maybe they are working together if there are different groups working on that.
Yeah, but there's also been a lot of conversations been going on, Enoch, that show that potentially we have multiple types of non-human intelligence that are here, and they're fighting against each other, and there's actually a territorial war going on between them, and we're just the ones who are the result of it.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
And I hope this doesn't open up a whole new can of worms. But what if it's not non-human intelligence, but it's just a different variation of human intelligence? And, when we're asking questions about NHI, they can say, no, honestly, we don't have any, non-human intelligence. It's just a different strand of human by definition. And where their origins are, again, makes their physical characteristics and everything look different. But ultimately, what it is that we call human is more biologically similar than different.
Yeah, that's true. But, we're talking about biologics and everything. If we look at what's been going on down in Peru with the mummies and stuff that's out there, let me bring this latest picture up because it's not just that. We also have, where did that scene go? It's got to be here somewhere. Hold on.
Was it Jesse Michaels was just down there? That was a
No, not that one. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we've got another clip of another one of those species, or if you want to call it creatures, that's out there. They actually have some of them that have wings on the back of the creature. So it keeps on going more. They're not sure what the heck to call these, but you know what? They're small, they're compact, and coming out of it, I'm just left at a loss for words for what these things are. Rick, any thoughts from your side for what we're looking at here?
No, I wish I knew more. I know Pitt has a lot of theories about those, and he's done his own studies. Dr. Kate Green.
Yeah.
But I haven't studied this enough to make an educated or an intelligent examination of it or statement. But
yeah,
they are very peculiar, and there are not just one, but there's several different types.
Right.
The ones with wings and the other two.
And this is the first time I've seen anything with wings. It's got the same basic shape and everything, but now you've got these things off the back that they're calling as potentially could be wings. They've got this really long spine, and it just doesn't if you want to call it, align to our existing understanding of what could be real. But the thing is, if they're finding these things and it's there, I guess we just have to broaden our broaden our ability to accept or reject.
Yeah, exactly. I think somebody remarked, I'm not sure if it was Kit or somebody else remarked that those appendages could very well be a cape. Some form of a cape that we found several ETs with capes that they use them to cover themselves up or for other reasons. So those two appendages could very well be something that could house a cape.
Yeah, absolutely. If we can get to it, Freezer Man, your hand is up, my friend.
I just wanted to say that we keep thinking that that the NHI has manipulated hominids or whatever on Earth, but it's a possibility that that they brought a hominid from somewhere else. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that we actually are from here. We were brought here from somewhere else, and they kept tinkering with us until they got to whatever they wanted. It's just a thought.
Yeah, potentially. The sky's the limit on this. We just have to keep our minds open and see what's out there. And as more and more evidence comes forward, we just have to look at it with a discerning eye, but not just look at it and just, like some people, throw it away and say it's bullshit. There's something there, because I've seen a lot of the CAT scans and other stuff that's out there. And for me, it's just, you can't deny it based on the imaging that we have today based on our capabilities. So, you could say, looking at it, oh, this is just bullshit, it's not real. But if you look at the imaging, you look at how the muscles are attached, the tendons are attached, how this stuff is there, everything that goes along with it. Yeah, it may break our model of what science believes these things are, but I think there's something more there than not.
Yep, I agree. And again, I think there's so many examples, new discoveries under the oceans, species that we thought were extinct being rediscovered. So, if taking into the consideration the age of the Earth, be finding these things demands you just be open.
Yeah. I would have to agree with you completely on that, Gene. And if we look at the clock, we say, wow, what a great time. We've had a great show tonight. Anything else? Rick, do you have anything else from the back you want to bring up?
No, I just glad to be back.
Yeah.
We've crossed over that hill, so I have more time to devote to these podcasts and my other work. So I'm glad to be back again. But I haven't kept track of current events, so to speak, but I'm catching up on them, and I'm sure I'll be back. I'll have a list of things I'll
Excellent.
discuss.
We look forward to it, my friend. As Brian Pemble says, great to have you back, Rick, on the show. Do we have a buried UFO or not? That is today's question. Who knows? We'll find out, my friend. Absolutely. As we go ahead and bring together this show for tonight of Disclosure Tonight, I want to thank everybody for coming out to this episode. More importantly, I want to thank everybody for going ahead and giving us some super chats. Who am I talking about? Play. There we go. Want to thank for super chats, Brian Pemble. Diamond once, Diamond twice, Rick Doty. Rick, my God, thank you for that $50 super chat. Diamond again. We got Tamisha Bertrand, Anne Marie, EDub21, and Necessary Dialogue. Sorry for the name screw up. I need to update my software because YouTube started throwing random numbers in there on that front. And as we usually say, my gosh, my friends, as we usually say at the end of it, Disclosure Tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everybody, but
Go back to Party City where you belong.
absolutely. We'll catch you on the flip side. Good night, everybody. Y'all come back now. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.